Have you ever wondered what has happened to the United States and its once vibrant culture? Have you ever wondered why a virtuous American culture has been in decay for over 60 to 70 years? The book Deus Ex Machina, God from the Machine, explains how foreign belief systems have been imported into the United States by foreign intellectual agents to be used to fundamentally transform the most prosperous and free nation in the world into a typical third world country. Learn how the progressive academics, progressive activists, large corporations, and the mainstream media have become appendages of the federal government, a Praetorian Guard, and an extension of the political vanguard class. Deus Ex Machina exposes the cogs of the machine that progresses our civil society to chaos and subjugation. Get this tool to educate others and illuminate the truth on the battlefield of ideas. Let's make a difference. Get Deus Ex Machina, the progression of secular socialism, from Amazon.com and Lulu.com today.
You are listening to the Lanterns Radio Network, where Americans come together to illuminate the truth. Turn it up loud and proud until the knob breaks off. Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
Are you getting a TV picture now, Houston? Neil, yes, we are getting a TV picture. You're in our field with you now. Okay, ready for me to come out? All set. Okay, I'm on the top step. It's a very simple matter to hop down from one step to the next. You've got 3 more steps and then a long one. Okay, I'm going to leave that 1 foot up there and both hands down about the 4th rung up.
Roger that. 10 miles, he's back on my nose. Fox 1 again.
And we say to our nation tonight, we say to our government, we even say to our FBI, we will not be harassed. We will not make a butchery of our conscience. We will not be intimidated, and we will be heard.
6 miles, 6 miles. Turning into me. Roger that. 12 miles. 4 miles. Taking right. Roger that. Good kill.
I got the other one. Select Fox 2. Select Fox 2.
Coming hard.
Shoot him. I haven't got a tone.
Got the second one.
I got the second one on the nose right now.
Hey, I'm high cover on you.
Get a Fox. Get it. Lock him up. Lock him up.
Battlefield Live, Chris Pilier, Lanterns Radio Network. Want to thank you for joining me on the battlefield tonight. And we got a great show lined up for you tonight. And hope you all had a great Christmas. A Merry Christmas. Christmas was great for me. Got to see a lot of family, a lot of friends. And I'm still not out of the Christmas spirit yet. I know it's kind of over. But I got a week off this week from my, I guess you'd say my day job. And so I'm going to focus a lot on Lanterns Media Network as well as the Battlefield Live radio show. And I hope you enjoy tonight's show. And we got great things to come. We're going to be talking about the Ministry of Trust. Y'all heard that before? Y'all ever read George Orwell's Oceana? Or about George Orwell's Oceana? We'll talk about that. How about Big Brother? Talk about that. So, most importantly, folks, we're going to be going to CPAC 2017, Lanterns Media Network, and we would need your help. If you can donate to us, you can go to donate.lanterns.buzz. Even if you have $1, donate anything that you can. We're going to take this message, the message that we share at lanterns.buzz and the Lanterns Media Network every single day. We're going to take that message to CPAC, and which is in D.C. this year. And we're going to try to fix the machine, and we're going to do that directly from Washington, D.C. See if we can rub some elbows with some people that need a little elbow cleaning. Lanterns Media Network, the Battlefield Live radio program, will stick with me on the battlefield. And we'll be right back after this short break.
We're here to fix the machine.
Battlefield Live.
You're listening to the Battlefield Live with Chris Pilier from Lanterns Radio Network and the Battlefield Live radio program. Want to thank you for joining us on the Battlefield today, and we got a lot of great things to come, a lot of great things to discuss, and 2017 is going to be a fantastic year. Just mentioned in the pre-show, we're going to be at CPAC 2017, February 22nd to February 25th. And we are looking for all the help we can. For the most part, Lanterns Media Network is a self-funded organization. All of us together within our media organization, our network, for the most part, does it all ourselves, folks. We do not have any large sponsors at this point. Not to say that we wouldn't entertain that, but we are going to be needing some help to get to CPAC 2017 in February. And we're looking for some simple donations, folks. It could be $1, $5, $10, whatever you think that you can afford. We're looking to start collecting that at the GoFundMe page. You can go to GoFundMe.com/LanternsBuzz, or you can go to donations or donation.lanterns.buzz. Check out that page. But the easiest thing is just to go to the GoFundMe page, GoFundMe.com/LanternsBuzz, and make a small donation, and we'll reach out to you and give you a big thank you, big hug through the internet. Also, make sure you go to our website, lanterns.buzz. Check out all the content there. 2017 is looking to be a great year for the network. A lot of new contributors coming on board, a lot of new features that are coming. If you're a podcaster or a writer, there's going to be things that we do on our network website, lanterns.buzz, that's going to empower you. If you're interested in coming to our network to write, or if you're interested in being a podcaster or a co-host, or even being a producer, if you like the technical side and you want to produce content for radio shows or for for writers, just reach out to us on our page at lanterns.buzz. Also, check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/lanternsbuzz. We're live there right now, Facebook Live. You can also check us out on Twitter, where we're on Periscope. You can check us out there at LanternsBuzz. And yes, I got all kind of computer screens all over, video cameras. Not hiding from anybody, I guess. The TSA could be keeping an eye on me. And speaking of Big Brother, I want to jump right into this. Folks, have you ever heard of the Ministry of Truth? Have you ever read 1984, maybe? George Orwell? Have you, actually it was 1984. In this city, Oceana, they had this Ministry of Truth, which was more or less a ministry of lies. I think it was called the Ministries of Love, Peace, Plenty, and Truth, is what they really called it in the book. Well, it seems to me that the Barack Obama administration, with the help of our wonderful Congress, the Congress that we thought was going to be, for the people, well, they've just created a something like, I don't know, in the very, very bottom, small text in a new piece of legislation that more or less is going to be the so-called Ministry of Truth. All this fake news stuff that's been going out there. You see, the elites in Washington, D.C. have been, I guess they're kind of scared now that somebody like Donald Trump, who was an anti-establishment person, whether you're a Donald Trump person or not, the fact of the matter is Donald Trump got elected by people that were sick of the establishment. They knew that Hillary Clinton was an establishment candidate, and they saw Donald Trump as somebody that was not establishment. Whether he continues to put forth the effort of doing that is to be seen. We'll see that once he gets formally put into office. as he's the president-elect now. But the fact of the matter is that the establishment is scared to death of us, and they should be. A government that is not scared of its people is a tyrannical government. Now, scared, I'm talking about losing their power scared, not rising up and pointing guns at Washington, D.C. Obviously, our Second Amendment does give us the right to do that if we need to, but we don't want to do that unless we absolutely have to. Last resort. In fact, before that would be Article 5. Yes, Article 5. I got some great news coming this year about Article 5 for the Lanterns Media Network. But I want to jump right into this article from ZeroHedge.com. Tyler Durden, fantastic blogger. Don't agree with everything that he says, but he's got a great piece here. And we'll post that on our Lanterns Media Network website, lanterns.buzz, for you to check out. All these articles we're going to discuss tonight, you can find there. So, as posted on the 26th today, late on Friday, with the U.S. population embracing the upcoming holidays and oblivious of most news emerging from the administration, Obama quietly signed into law the 2017 National Defense Authorization Act. You ever heard of the NDAA, folks? You've heard that before? Well, that's what the National Defense Authorization Act. And it authorizes $611 billion for the military in 2017. And in a statement that Obama said, today I have signed into law S-2943, the National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2017. The act authorizes fiscal year 2017 appropriations principally for the Department of Defense and for Department of Energy national security programs. Provides vital benefits for military personnel and their families, and includes authorities to facilitate ongoing operations around the globe. It continues many critical authorizations necessary to ensure that we are able to sustain our momentum in countering the threat posed by the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. And we'll talk about that here shortly. The state of Iraq and the Levant. ISIL, right? Why does he call it ISIL? We'll talk about that in a little bit. And to reassure the European allies, as well as many new authorizations that, among others things, provide Department of Defense and Energy more flexibility in countering cyber attacks and our adversaries' use of unmanned aerial vehicles. Well, folks, this sounds fantastic. I don't know how excited you all are and how much that we should believe Barack Obama and his statement here. I mean, who doesn't want to protect the United States against hackers, against ISIL or ISIS? Who doesn't want to fund our military and take care of our vets? Who doesn't? This is typical fake news, is what this is. So Tyler Durden further says, much of the balance of Obama's statement blamed the GOP for Guantanamo's continued operation and warned that unless the Congress changes its course, it will be judged harshly by history. And Obama said, let's see here. Obama also said Congress failed to use the bill to reduce wasteful overhead like the massive F-35 cost overruns or modernize military health care, which he said would exacerbate budget pressures facing the military in years ahead. But while the passage of the NDAA and the funding of the U.S. military was hardly a surprise, the big news is that what was buried deep inside the provisions of the Defense Authorization Act. Recall that, as we reported in early June, this is Tyler Durden of Zero Hedge, a bill to implement the U.S. very own de facto Ministry of Truth has been quietly introduced into Congress. So, folks, while you were out eating your turkey and enjoying your family time and, just doing what we do during the holidays, we turn off the boob tube, we turn off the podcasts, we turn off all these different things, and that way we can pay attention to our families and what means most. And during all of that, while you're scarfing down some fresh fried turkey like we had down here in Louisiana, and the cranberry sauce, and the mashed potatoes, or the potato salad is like I like it. Well, Congress, along with Barack Obama, has passed a de facto Ministry of Truth, yes, out of 1984. So let the fake news begin, right? As with any legislation attempting to dodge the public spotlight, the Countering Foreign Propaganda and Disinformation Act of 2016 marks a further curtailment of press freedom and another avenue to stultify, I like that word, stultify avenues of accurate information. Introduced by Congressman Adam Kinzinger and Ted Lieu, H.R. 5181 seeks a whole government approach without the bureaucratic restrictions, which basically means with tyranny, to counter foreign disinformation and manipulation, which they believe threaten the world's security and stability. So what this really means, folks, is that your voice is curtailed. That's what this means. Because it's our responsibility to determine what is fake news and what's not the federal government. The federal government doesn't have the right to go in and curtail the news that we receive every day. That is not what the government is there for. And this idea that it's about national defense is BS. Surprisingly, Portman continued, there is currently no single U.S. government agency or department charged with the national level development, integration, and synchronization of whole of government strategies to counter foreign propaganda and disinformation. Folks, we've been dealing with disinformation and propaganda for 100 years or more. And this idea that all of a sudden we need this new protection, when does it stop? It never stops, folks. That's the point. It never stops. The government never stops infringing on your freedoms when it's been more or less unwielded, when it's been unmoored from the Constitution. So at the same time, another article in VOA News fears growing Islamic State successfully weaponizing refugees. So I want to get into this article, but what I want to do first, I want to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to have a ton of stuff to discuss, and I want to get into what's going on in Israel, specifically what the UN did to Israel, including Barack Obama in the United States. Stick with me on the battlefield, folks. We still got a lot to talk about. And make sure you go to lanterns.buzz. And we are live right now on Facebook Live, facebook.com/lanternsbuzz. Make sure you check it out. We'll be right back after this short break.
Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
People often ask me, they say, Chris, how is it that we can change the minds of many in this country? And I say, well, you first don't start with the mind, you have to start with the heart. You don't change minds without changing hearts. And that's what we're going to do. It wasn't that long ago that you might have not have had hope for the country, and all of a sudden you have a change of heart. We'll expect that other people right now feel the same way that you used to. It's those people that we have to reach out to. It may be you that we have to reach out to. So it's our task to form a community, a group, unified behind principles, unified behind what has made America the country that it is now. It's about liberty. It's about freedom. And everybody wants to experience this. We just have to show them how. It's about you being a lantern shining out the light of truth. And we can bring this all together in one place. It's truly about the shining city on the hill. hope is not in the hands of someone else. It's within ourselves. It's within our hearts. It's within our minds. And it's about utilizing those things in order to be able to make us free.
Lanterns, illuminating the truth. Battlefield Live.
Battlefield Live, Chris Pilier, Lanterns Media Network. Thank you for joining me on the battlefield. That's Vivian Rivera. Thanks for liking the page. Look, folks, we need a big push for CPAC coming up 2017. We're going to be needing to raise a little bit of money so we can help some of our great patriots get there. Look, at the end of the day, you know, most of us that do this day in, day out, while I have a nice fancy studio, it's taken me many years of putting this together. A lot of the people that do live radio shows on Lanterns Media Network, they do it from a laptop and a little small microphone. And they work very, very hard at getting out a message that's a pro-American message. The message that a lot of us need to hear. A lot of other people need to hear. We need to stop focusing so much on the established voices out there and give a little bit of power to the people that have voices that need to be heard. And so Lanterns Media Network, that's what we're doing. We're working very, very hard to do that. You can check out our website, lanterns.buzz. Make sure you also go to our GoFundMe page. We're trying to raise a little bit of cash so we can send a lot of these great patriots to a place where we can get some things done in Washington, D.C. CPAC 2017, February 22nd and 25th. I'm hoping to see all of you there. So check that out at donate.lanterns.buzz or gofundme.com/lanternsbuzz. Also, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/lanternsbuzz, and like the page. Number one, like the page. Also, turn your notifications on. We will not bombard you with information. We're only going to give you information that is pertinent and important. We have instructed all of our social media gurus to make sure we don't slam you with all this content. We basically give you some pieces here and there. And if you want to catch all of our content, you can go to lanterns.buzz, our website, as well as on Twitter at lanternsbuzz. And most of all, we thank you. And 2017 is going to be a great year, and I want to make sure that you join us next year. It's going to be some great things. In fact, there's some great things going on with this particular program. We're going to have a co-host that's going to come in next year, and I think you're going to like this individual. Very important that we mix things up a little bit, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really, really excited about this, and we'll make that announcement here coming up soon. Also, let's get right back into this discussion about what's going on with ISIL, or what actually that's what Barack Obama would like to call it, and in some cases, that's what it needs to be called, ISIL. And I'm going to explain this. Of course, Barack Obama wants it called ISIL for different reasons. So, fears growing Islamic State successfully weaponizing refugees. This is out of Voya News. Western security officials are increasingly worried that the Islamic State terror group may be a step ahead of their renewed efforts to stop terrorist infiltration of their countries. Fears once centered on IS, which is ISIS, using migrant and refugee flows to sneak in highly trained operatives bent on carrying out attacks. Now they're expanded include an equally dangerous possibility. A growing number of officials now warn that the terror group may be looking to essentially weaponize refugees and other vulnerable immigrant populations after they have successfully crossed Western borders and passed through what they look to be forever tougher vetting processes. Kevin, we could be kind of talking about that we got to close these big, huge gaps in our immigration system. I mean, isn't that the problem that we have, is that we're possibly letting in not only people that are going to destroy our economic prosperity here, but also possibly our national security? So that article, along with all the other articles that we're talking about, we'll be posting. Now, talking about weaponizing refugees, check out this article. This is out of The Sun. Biowar in sight. futuristic warheads laced with diseases such as Zika virus and Ebola could wipe out swaths of humanity if they fall into terrorist hands. Retired U.S. Admiral and NATO Commander James Stavridis, I guess I'm pronouncing his name right, Stavridis, warns something must be done to prevent the weapons from falling into terrorist hands. I don't know, maybe we should stop putting progressives in office that give weapons to people like Iran. You know, I mean, Israel, of all places in the Middle East, okay, Israel is the target of the UN, not places like Iran, right? We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. Futuristic warheads laced with deadly diseases such as Zika virus and Ebola could wipe out swaths of humanity. These missiles, known as biological weapons of mass destruction, could kill up to 20% of the world's population, 400 million people, in a pandemic not seen since the Spanish influenza or the Spanish flu. This is a chilling warning issued by James Stavridis, a retired four-star U.S. Navy admiral and NATO Supreme Allied Commander. He writes in Foreign Policy magazine that world leaders must discuss, given our growing ability to manipulate living organisms, how to contain the spread of such evil technology. He added the rise of low-cost synthetic biology technologies, the falling costs of DNA sequencing, and the diffusion of knowledge through the internet, creating the conditions for an outbreak of biological event not dissimilar to the Spanish influenza of roughly a century ago. So if that doesn't lighten up your holiday, I don't know what does, folks. But hey, it's the news, right? All these things are still going on as we celebrate Christmas. Here's another one. Berlin plans center of defense against fake news ahead of elections. Sounds familiar? We just talked about this with Barack Obama slipping in the middle of the night in the NDAA legislation, this new defense, this Ministry of Truth, if you will, like out of 1984, George Orwell's 1984. The German government is seeking to create a center of defense against disinformation ahead of next year's elections in the wake of ongoing fake news and Russian hackers hysteria generating during the election cycle in the United States. The Federal Press Office in the Chancellery, which has a staff of over 500 professionals, will take the leading role in establishing the Fake News Defense Center. Der Spiegel reported, quoting a note from the anonymous Interior Ministry staff member. So, a little bit more of the control of our media, right? So where does all this go? And look, let me make this straight, okay? And I had people asking me a lot of questions. Look, I can't help, but when I go to a party, like a Christmas party, I got people that ask me political questions, and I try not to get engaged politically during Christmas, but I can't help it. People are asking me questions, and I feel like here's an opportunity for me to explain. And actually, a lot of the conversations that I had were really good conversations, and conversations that didn't get too crazy. And I think it was a great opportunity to talk about some of this stuff. One of the things that I talked about is just this: should we fear Russia? Well, we shouldn't fear Russia any more or any differently than we did 10, 20, 30 years ago. It's not like they're much different than they were in the Soviet Union. Just a different type of dictatorship. It's a fascist regime run by Putin. This disinformation and fake news crap that we're hearing, this has been going on for 100 years. To think that this is all of a sudden going to stop by us putting in some government officials that, prevent us from speaking to ourselves is really what it boils down to. So if you're thinking that on either side of this, that Russia is really not a threat, well, they are a threat. They're a big threat. And they do get involved in our elections. They do try to influence us. But it's nothing new. It's just new now because people are talking about it. The media is talking about it because they're having a pity party over what happened to Hillary Clinton. The establishment doesn't like the fact that Donald Trump has vowed to go in and dismantle their power structure. Whether he does it or not is a whole other story, but it is going to happen. Now, folks, I want to get into this discussion now about Israel, okay? So why is it that Barack Obama calls it ISIL? Why is it that for, I don't know how many votes, but for many years, the UN has voted to condemn Israel for their settlements that they've been building in their region, arguably their land, okay? But the UN, due to the Palestinian crisis that's going on there, that's been created for the most part by the Palestinians, the UN has not condemned formally with a resolution the Israeli state. Well, guess what? It has just happened, and the reason why is because Barack Obama and the Americans under Barack Obama at the UN have abstained from voting and have failed to veto this particular resolution. So we'll talk about that when we come back on the Battlefield Live radio program. You're listening to Chris Pilier, Lanterns Media Network. We'll be right back after this short break.
Find the Lanterns Radio Network on Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes, Player FM, YouTube, and other social media by searching keyword Lanterns Buzz or Lanterns Radio Network.
So first, let me say that I share the concern of the left over our new president-elect Donald Trump. I never thought I would even say the words President Donald Trump. But most of our fear is the concern with the executive branch. I think that's the thing that we can relate to. We both, left and right, people that are really truly looking for a solution in the country. And this executive branch has been expanded greatly over the years and offers a huge sword that could be used to swing at the American people by the person in that position. Doesn't matter who it is, Donald Trump or Barack Obama or whoever, Bernie Sanders. I recognize the fears of the left and the new president, as he will soon wield the much expanded power that Barack Obama and his predecessors unleashed. Now, when Barack Obama was elected, okay, I was greatly concerned as the left is. So if you're listening to me and you're the left, I'm speaking to you.
You have impacted with the arm of the chair.
No, Mr. Spock. I meant, what happened to us?
That we have yet to ascertain.
Lincoln died 3 centuries ago on a planet hundreds of light years away.
More that direction, engineer.
Thank heaven.
Mr. Scott, there was no deity involved. It was my cross-circuiting to be that recovered them.
I'm just as concerned as you are. I was concerned in such a way that I wrote an entire book about how the progressive movement has pushed to replace the American culture that has embraced individual liberty, the rule of law, equal justice under that same law, property rights, and the free and open society to debate ideas.
I had a wild neighborhood, I got to tell you, because my mother's Puerto Rican and my father's Negro, and we lived in a real big Jewish tenement building in an Italian neighborhood. Every time I go outside, the kids say, "Get him! He's all of them!"
My fear was that the nation was being pushed towards a totalitarian socialist state, much like you fear. All the people that are coming out and saying they are fearing Donald Trump because he's a quote-unquote fascist or like Hitler, they're fearing socialism much like I did in 2008. It's a different type of socialism. What I learned in this exercise is that the progressive movement was not solely an extension of operations of the Democratic Party, but rather a part of a dialectical expression within a society in class conflict that offers a similar counterpart. The one that you fear, Mr. and Mrs. Liberal, the alt-right.
You walk down the street and you'll see like a group of black dudes walking. Not just any old black dude. We talking, thugs. Talking, there'll be some thugs. And in the group, they got like one or two, sometimes as many as 3 white guys will be with them. You ever seen this? Well, let me tell you something about those white guys. Those white guys are the most dangerous motherfuckers in them groups.
You are listening to
the Lanterns Radio Network,
where Americans come together to illuminate the truth. Turn it up loud and proud until the knob breaks off.
Lanterns, illuminating the truth.
Battlefield Live.
Turn down for what? Turn down for what?
Battlefield Live radio program, and I'm kind of digging around looking for this. I'll keep this like little outlines. That way, when I start to talk about things, I have a hard time remembering like dates and stuff like that, right? So generally, I keep these notes, and I'm looking for all my notes on ISIL and ISIS, and I think I found them. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So first order of business, folks. Make sure you like our page, lanterns.buzz, or facebook.com/lanternsbuzz. We're on Facebook Live there. We're also on Periscope. If you're watching us on Periscope, we appreciate it. That's actually from Twitter. You can go to Lanterns Buzz on Twitter. Follow us there. So the Blaze has an article posted. If I can get it to wake up, I tell you what, the Blaze is a great source of information. But I tell you what, their website really slow. They just got too much stuff going on there. I'm a web developer, so I guess I'm snooty about websites. Anyway, the article reads: U.S.-Israeli relations about to enter new chapter under Trump. And the last several days of U.S.-Israeli diplomacy have gone much like the rest of the past 8 years, as frustrations between the two nations were exposed over a United Nations Security Council resolution. The resolution, which condemns Israel for constructing settlements in the land claimed by the Palestinians, was passed during Friday's vote, and the U.S. abstained from participating. That's what's key. We have been vetoing this particular resolution for many years, and we've decided this time to abstain from it. So guess what happens? The resolution goes through. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu did not take kindly to President Barack Obama's decision to abstain, accusing the U.S. of not only failing to protect Israel against the gang-up at the UN, but also colluding with it behind the scenes. The New York Times explained today how the move was the final plot point in a years-long adversarial relationship between Barack Obama and Netanyahu. And this is out of the New York Times. For Mr. Netanyahu, it was the final betrayal by a president who was supposed to be an ally but never really was. For Mr. Obama, it was the inevitable result of Mr. Netanyahu's own stubborn defiance of international concerns with his policies. The two sides did little to hide their mutual contempt after talks led them to conclude that Mr. Obama would not veto the resolution, as presidents of both parties have done in the past. Israeli officials essentially washed their hands of the incumbent and contacted his successor in the wings. President-elect Donald Trump, promptly put out a statement calling on Mr. Obama and his Secretary of State, John Kerry, by name. President Obama and Secretary Kerry are behind the shameful move against Israel at the UN, the official said. The U.S. administration secretly cooked up with the Palestinians an extreme anti-Israeli resolution behind Israel's back, which would be a tailwind for terror and boycotts, and effectively making the Western Wall occupied Palestinian territory. Think about that, folks. The Western Wall, the Wailing Wall. You know, where you see a lot of the Jews, kind of nodding. I forgot they call it shekeling, I think is what they call it, where they actually nod and they pray right at the Wailing Wall. Well, now the UN has basically said that is Palestinian territory that's being occupied by the Israelis. Think about how absurd that is. There's a reason why they call it Judea. Okay, that region is Judea. But you know what Barack Obama wants to call it? He wants to call it the Levant. Why? Because during the Ottoman Empire, that was the Levant. Are y'all familiar with the Ottoman Empire? The Ottoman Empire fell at World War I, or during World War I. And the reason why is because the West went in and split up the Ottoman Empire with subversion. The same type of stuff that the Russians are trying to do here in the United States. And what they did was they stoked the flames of nationalism, just as the Russians did here. Now, shame on us if we can't recognize it. We don't need a damn government to try to prevent political speak here in the United States, regardless of where it comes from. The fact of the matter is that during World War I, the French and the English, through the Sykes-Picot Treaty, more or less separated the Ottoman Empire and created a colonial state. Okay? Now, any country that goes to war, okay, when the war is won, who gets the land? Who got Eastern Germany when after World War II? Wasn't it Russia? Wasn't Russia the one that actually received Eastern Germany? That was the after. I mean, did they give it back to the German people? No, they took it. Why? Because they lost the war. So France and England did the same thing in World War I. They took huge swaths of land in the Middle East, and they carved it up and gave parts of it to each country. Part of that was in the Levant, which was the region around where Israel, Syria, and Iraq is. Okay? Now, here's the key. Barack Obama, along with Hillary Clinton, and most progressives, or all progressives rather, see the United States, see England, see France, see most of the European nations as colonialist states. They deeply despise the English, okay, the Brits. The first thing that Barack Obama did when he got into office was he sent the bust of Churchill back to the Queen. Why? Because he didn't want a colonialist statue in his midst. You see, there's much history with Churchill, including between Churchill and the Brits, as well as with Barack Obama's father. Okay, and keep in mind, Barack Obama's real father was a communist from Kenya. Okay, and who occupied Kenya? Well, like most of Africa, it was the English, and it was under Winston Churchill. Okay, so the bottom line is Barack Obama does not like colonialism. He's an anti-colonialist. If you watch the documentary that Dinesh D'Souza did on Barack Obama, not this past one, actually it was the last one about Obama. His last documentary was about actually Hillary and the Hillary camp and all their stuff. But the one prior to that, I forgot the name of it, but you got to check it out. Dinesh D'Souza. He talked about this anti-colonialist rhetoric and the ideology of Barack Obama. It's all built on anti-colonialism. And this is nothing new. Progressives have been complaining about colonialism for years. It has to do with Marxism. The fact of the matter is that Marxists believe that colonialism is wrong. This is one of the things that always amazes me. You talk about, the progressives and the Democrats always saying that we're a nation of immigrants, but we're a nation of colonists. We colonized the United States for the most part. We did have immigrants that came here, but we're not a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of colonists. For the most part, most of the American people here, outside of the Africans that were brought here as slaves, and some of the other immigrants that came from Germany, Ireland, came from Italy, and other places. For the most part, we were descendants of colonists. Okay? My family is a descendant of colonists. Okay? So the point I'm trying to get at here is that it's typical hypocrisy of the left that say we're a nation of immigrants, but at the same time they're anti-colonialists. They can't even get their head straight. Evan Syatt was always one that was able to articulate the hypocrisy of the left the best. If you haven't checked out his book called Kindergarten of Eden, you got to check it out. It's classic. So back to this point. So going back to what ISIS is. Okay, ISIS is the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. It's two countries, right? For the most part, that's where they reside. That's where they exist. But you got to understand what ISIS wants. ISIS does not want Iraq and Syria. They want a caliphate. They want the Levant. The Levant is a region. You see, ISIS and ISIL, as well as other radical Islamic groups, or even some nations, They want this caliphate back like they had in the Ottoman Empire, and they believe the West stole it from them. The Muslim Brotherhood is a group that pushes this caliphate. That's what they want. They're here in the United States to manipulate our politics in order to be able to get the caliphate back in that region of the world. But the problem is that Islam is a fascistic ideology. It's not just a religion like most people believe, and it's not just a political system. It's also a life system. Islam's sole goal is to eliminate all heretics, which they call what is it? What they call them? Damn, I have a mind fart. Sorry, folks. Some of y'all on Facebook, y'all can tell me. Y'all can give me some feedback here. I can't think of it. Anyway, so the jihad is a part of what those that subscribe to Islam are trying to eliminate all the heretics within Islam. You see, the Ottoman Empire would have never stopped if it wasn't stopped by the West. It would have continued to grow and grow and grow, and eventually there'd be mosques popping up. You see, mosques are a symbol of victory. It's not a place of worship. It's an occupational type of structure. So when 9/11 happened and the Twin Towers fell, what did the Muslim Brotherhood do? What did the Islamic people in this country, the radicals, do? They built a mosque at the foot of the World Trade Center. Why? Because it was a victory for them. I know this may sound kind of crazy, but it's the facts. Okay? So back to why. So ISIS wants to take over the world. They want to eliminate anything that does not fit into their Islamic system, their life system. It includes the banking world. It includes the way we dress. It's cultural. It is completely and diametrically opposed to what we stand for in the United States. That's why we must fight it. We don't fight Muslims because they're Muslims. We fight Islam because Muslims, in many cases, follow a radical ideology. This radical ideology is no different than what communism was, and still is, arguably. It's fascistic in ways. Okay? It's about getting rid of borders. So ISIS talks about borders. ISIS is, like I said, Iraq and Syria. So when Barack Obama talks about it as ISIL, he's agreeing with the real nature of what ISIS is. I agree with Barack Obama's use of the word ISIL, because ISIL wants the Levant. They don't care about the borders between Iraq and Syria. They don't give a crap about that. They want that region. Now, Barack Obama also wants that. And look, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist. You don't have to be the Alex Jones type with the, screaming about, fish, kids with fish gills and the Illuminati and all this stuff to really just realize what the facts are. If you look at the entirety of Barack Obama's presidential reign in this country, and you see the things that he's done in that region of the world, we've talked about this quite a bit on this show. If you see what people, his allies did, like George Soros, and working to undermine any of the secular dictators in that region of the world, not to say I support dictatorships, but Muammar Gaddafi was much better than what they have now. The people in Tunisia that was running Tunisia was much better than what they are now. So the fact of the matter is that Barack Obama, the progressive left, they want to return that region of the world back to the Islamic State, to the caliphate. They want to give it back. And Israel stands in the way. Barack Obama has been trying to undermine Israel since he stepped into office, and arguably before that, when he was in Congress. You see, the idea of the borders, of getting rid of or moving the borders of Israel in past the Golan Heights, it gives a military disadvantage to Israel, because the Golan Heights, they call it that for a reason. If you give those tall, high altitude lands to the enemy, they will be able to set up their missiles and rocket launchers and mortars and all that stuff and shoot hellfire into Israel. Ask yourself, why would Netanyahu and the Israeli people want to give that land to a group that vows to kill them. Why is it that the Barack Obama's pretty much his last statement to the world was that he wants to undermine Israel by condemning Israel from being a part of Jerusalem? That it's occupied land of the Palestinians? The Palestinians that don't want a land, all they want to do is exterminate the Israeli people? Folks, we have to realize the nature of where this ideology comes from. We have to be able to look at what's going on in that region of the world and understand the complexities of it. And we got to be able to articulate it. The fact of the matter is probably 90% of the population here in the United States don't pay attention. Doesn't pay attention to what goes on in Israel. Why? Because it doesn't affect them in their mind. They don't believe it affects them. But the fact of the matter, it does affect them. Do you realize if that the caliphate came back in its full nature, as it was in the Ottoman Empire, that fuel prices and gas prices would go through the roof, that our total world economy would probably be in disarray? And I'm not for a globalist world, right? I don't want one world government. I'm not in favor of that. That's not what I'm talking about. The fact of the matter is we do participate in the world economy. We have a trade system in place. If we shut the doors to trade, the entire world economy would collapse. Not only because the most powerful economic force in the world is the United States, but that is partially, one of the stabilizing aspects of the world. Mutually assured destruction went from a military point of view to an economic point of view when we went onto the world stage as an economic, the economy, flourished around the world as a world economy. So, I guess the biggest thing that we have to take from this is we got to push Donald Trump to reject this type of stuff, and it seems to me that he has been. I've got to give credit where credit's due. The fact that he called out President Barack Obama and John Kerry, it was a good thing. And the rhetoric has to go into action. The rhetoric is just not enough. We got to go further with protecting the state of Israel, and not necessarily. I'm not talking about that we need to give up the entirety of our economy to save the little land. No, we just need to be able to protect them in a way that works with our interests. The state of Israel works within the interests of the United States. It's the only democratic nation in that region of the world that we can actually work with. I don't think that we should be setting up bases in every single country around the world, and that's not what we do. But we do have to have strategic alliances with certain countries in order to be able to further the interests of the United States. And that is not a business interest as it is a security interest. The United Nations and NATO has been bastardized because we have given it way too much power. We have given it way too much legitimacy. Should the UN exist? No, it shouldn't. Not in its current format. Should NATO exist? No. We are NATO, for God's sakes. I mean, how much of the military of NATO is actually given to from France and Britain and other places in Europe? Very little. We fund, for the most part, all of the UN for the most part. Not all of it, but most of it. And why? The UN is always working outside of our better interests. In fact, how many terrorist states sit in the UN? How many? Many. I don't know the exact number. But when you give Iran a voice, and then you want to shut down Israel, that's a problem. That's a problem when you look at Israel as an occupied land, or Jerusalem rather, is an occupied land of the Palestinians. That's idiotic. All you got to do is look in history. You look in the Bible. It was Judea prior to it being Palestinian. So we got a lot of work to do, folks. And one of the things that was really interesting to me is that I've been in politics now for, I guess, I don't know, 10 years maybe. Deeply involved. I mean, before that I was interested in it, but I wasn't involved. And I saw some different things happen at Christmas this year than has happened in previous Christmases. Because I mean, I've been just as engaged as I was this past year as I've won in the previous years. But nobody talked to me about politics. They all knew that I was politically engaged, but they only talked about it, just kind of in passing, and I never really engaged a whole lot. I used to try to do that. I'd go to Christmas and want to talk to everybody about politics, and it just doesn't work out. If somebody wants to talk to me about it, I'm game, right? And that's the way it should be. And then when that opportunity arises, there is a fruitful discussion that should be peaceful and calm. And but the point is that this Christmas, for whatever reason, was different. Everybody was interested. Everybody was discussing it, and I don't know why. I have a feeling that a lot of people got engaged because of Donald Trump and his methods were, successful. He really exposed a lot of what's going on in the media. There's a lot of things that came out with the WikiLeaks that I think showed a lot of Americans how crooked our political system is. Regardless of whether or not you agree with the way that the information was achieved, the fact of the matter is that we saw what was going on. And when I started to get into some of the WikiLeaks and the Russian hackers and what was found in John Podesta's emails, the people that I was talking to were really, really interested in what I was saying, which is, typically my audience is you all that listen to me on the radio. But here are people at Christmas dinner that never engage with me with politics, and for some cases they don't engage with me at all. But they've been seeing my Facebook posts, they've been seeing my Facebook Live on my own personal page, and it really made me feel good and made me realize that we have to continue this. So at Lanterns Media Network, we are working to try to motivate and awaken people, get people to open their eyes. But we have to do it, like I said in the bumper commercial earlier, where I said that we have to change hearts in order to change minds. The fact of the matter is we're dealing with a cultural problem here in the United States. There's a lot of different things. It's not just liberal versus conservative. It has to do with the fact that we are looking at things in the wrong way. And next year, we're going to be doing a lot of work to expose the cultural deficiencies that we have in the United States. And we're going to discuss a lot of that. And I want you all to join me on the battlefield. That's what this program is. And I want you to put this as an effort that we're going to learn together. I want you to engage with me on the battlefield. This battlefield doesn't have just me running around with a sword and a spear and a mask and a helmet on like I was an old gladiator. That's not what it's about. I got to get out there and engage. And it's a battlefield of ideas. And I need you to join me on that, okay? So what I need you to do, I need you to go to lanterns.buzz, and I need you to subscribe to the website. It's very easy. Just look up at the top bar up there is a login link. Make sure you click that. Just put your name, your email address, and a password, and you'll have access to all of the tools behind the scenes. There's no cost involved. We're not going to spam you or sell your email address or anything like that. Make sure you do that. Also, like our Facebook page, facebook.com/LanternsBuzz. Make sure you also follow us on Twitter at LanternsBuzz. It's very simple to get there. Just type in at LanternsBuzz. And also make sure that that you spread the word, folks. Make sure you spread the word. Get engaged on the battlefield. And I think if we do this, folks, there's a lot of great things to come. And I'm really optimistic about where we are as a nation. It's not necessarily because of the people in Washington, D.C. It's just I think people are starting to wake up and realize that things are not like they need to be. So I want to thank you for joining me on the battlefield, Lanterns Media Network, and we'll be back again this week. And next year is going to be a fantastic year. Make sure if you could please help us, go to donate.lanterns.buzz to help us get to CPAC 2017 in February. You can also go to GoFundMe.com/LanternsBuzz. I want to thank you for joining me on the battlefield. We'll be back later. Tater.